coffee, right? It's the afternoon. The sun is in my face. I got my sunglasses on, right? The future's so bright. We got our shades on, right? Is that how the song goes? Anyways, I want to talk to you about something that I've talked about on my other channel, but we're going to go in more depth here. About if you're new to my channel, or if you're new to me, or if you used to follow me in the old channel and did not see my progression for the last 12 years, you probably might not know that I gained quite a bit of weight. From the time, if you look at my video, it says my new Kenworth, from that time to the highest I ever weighed was, I think at that time I was 225, and now I'm, at that, I got as high as 380, 385, somewhere around there, depending on how much water I drank that day. And, and a lot of it was different factors, the sleep apnea, the stress of being an owner operator, the stress of being a truck driver, the stress of things at home and family, and trying to keep two little kids happy because, they miss their dad, a lot of guilt, a lot of stress, and a lot of horrible decisions. Like I used to go to Popeyes and eat their family meal by myself with no leftovers. I used to go in and buy 2 breakfast value meals at McDonald's. I used to eat just to stay awake before I had my sleep apnea treatment, that kind of thing, right? And so I went on a journey to lose weight. I listened to people like Thomas DeLore, Dr. Berg, from what I've learned, in a whole assortment of different channels that got me on the ketogenic diet. Well, that worked. I dropped 120 pounds, but, straying a little bit, because I'm human, I've gained another 20 pounds back. So my 120 pound loss is now a 100 pound loss, but we're working on that. And that's one important part, okay? The other important part, easy there, is that I've taken sabbaticals from Facebook, from Instagram, from YouTube. Actually, didn't do YouTube for 30 days. And I realized just how much we're addicted to having these devices in our hand. How much dopamine. Dr. Robert Lustig has a great book called The Hacking of the American Mind. I suggest you read that. And what he explains is that from the time that we're born, we are indoctrinated with these corporations putting bad food, which affects us physically, it affects us mentally, it affects us all the way around. And so when I went on the ketogenic diet and started losing the weight was just an effect, right? The true thing that was awesome was the mental clarity. And so I started to put 2 and 2 together. All right, so my stress level's down when I'm off Facebook. My stress level's down when I'm not watching TV or watching the YouTubes, right? And I started to realize something. That between the indoctrinating of our children, between the food, think about it, infant formula, it's all soy and sugar based. And when you look at the state of the world, everybody's crazy, right? Everybody's lost their minds. And it's easy to blame social media, but see, here's the thing. Social media is stirring something that's already inside us. Think about, let's say you're kind of a manipulative person, right? How easy is it, I can't talk, how easy is it to manipulate an emotional person? We do it all the time, right? People do it all the time. Someone gets triggered with a word. What do? Hey, here's that word, right? And And they lose their stuff, right? They lose their composure. You know, I just watched a video today of these people losing it at different various Pizza Huts because their order wasn't right. And these people are getting downright violent over chicken sandwiches and pizzas. You have people literally offended by small words like, I don't know, gender pronouns. And there's a whole bigger picture there, but it all starts with the food. Now that might sound silly to you, but hear me out. Soy-based proteins create estrogen. That's why you have men with, that need bras, maybe, myself included. We're dealing with an epidemic of hormonal imbalance. Being overweight is not a caloric issue, it is a hormonal issue. Insulin, right? Spiking your insulin. What foods spike your insulin? That's what creates the health problems. So here's what happens. We're babies, we're fed the soy protein. We become little kids, and we go to the Easter egg hunts, and we go trick-or-treating, and we get the big bowls of cereal that Saturday morning, if kids still do that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. And they we feed them sugar, right? But you don't really notice any issues until, I don't know, about 10, 12, ADHD sets in, attention goes out the wayside, they're hard to control, so we put medication on them, right? We put medication on them to keep them controlled. And and then these kids become 20 something, and by this time they're starting to show their weight, and they're starting to see some effects, but they can still pretty much have a healthy heart. They still pretty much can don't have diabetes yet. They've got the onset, but it's not full blown yet. And then 30s, that's when all this stuff kind of hits the fan. You get diabetes, and then your 40s, you start getting the pains in your joints, and you get the inflammation. And then, in the 50s, you get your strokes, and you get your heart attacks. And then, so next thing you know, by age 60, you are on all these different medications. And these medications are designed to do one thing and one thing only: make money. They prolong your misery. They get you dependent on them. I have to have health insurance because I have to have this medication, because, without this medication, I will die, right? Now, if I told you that, hey, I'm the only one that can keep you alive with this one thing, wouldn't you call me an a-hole, right? Wouldn't you do that? Well, that's essentially what the pharmaceutical companies are doing. They create the soy, they create the sugar, they create the problem, and then they create the cure, right? But when you look at the mental health state, not just the physical health state, but the mental health state of this country, and the level of narcissism, the everybody gets a trophy mentality, the way the schools are telling you to hate capitalism and to hate America and to hate, true diversity and all that stuff, what happens? Now these kids grow up and they don't have any coping skills. They think everything should be handed to them. Next thing you know, they're a 40-year-old lady who's having a hissy fit at a Pizza Hut because she has no respect for the workers. She has no respect for the property. She has no respect for you, who's behind her in line scratching your head because all you want is your damn pizza, right? And these are the observations I started to make slowly over time as I went through my journey of losing 120 pounds. And knowing that the times that I went off the rails, like this past weekend where I was at a truck show and people were spoiling us with food, they weren't healthy foods by no means. And man, I tell you what, I gained 15, it feels like I gained 15 pounds. I gained 10. And, just 4 days of being off, right? And I gained that weight tremendously. I was depressed. I was full of anxiety. I was back to my old self, before before I lost the weight. And that's scary. That's something that we should pay attention to. And so, think about this. When you talk to a cigarette smoker and you go, hey, I bet you can't quit, they get offended, right? But they can't. They literally can't. Even if they want to, they can't. So if you sit there and say, yes, I know I'm addicted to cigarettes because I try to quit and I can't, that is chemical, dependency. How many of you said that they can't go without sugar? How many of you said they can't go without pasta? How many of you said you can't go without bread? That's on purpose. And that should ring a red flag. Wow, I'm being manipulated, and where I can't even go without bread because it's so ingrained in our culture. It's so ingrained in every restaurant meal there is out there. And it's just, it's delicious. It tastes good. It feels good in the beginning, not afterwards. But, that's an addictive substance. Ask anybody who's ever gone on the keto diet. Ask anybody who's ever quit cigarettes. Ask anybody who's ever quit alcohol. There's a chemical dependency there that goes far beyond you just having willpower. Okay? You can't have willpower if you don't even know what that was. Because as kids, Saturday morning, eating the big bowl of cereal, getting Halloween candy, getting the Easter egg hunt candy, And so you look at all these things, and then you look at the state of our country. We can sit there and blame the president. We can sit there and blame the government. We can sit there and blame, overseas, and there might be some manipulation in those elements. But the reality is that we have been bred to be this way. We have been literally bred like a bunch of cows in a field who are, here's a cow. It's born, it's put on a field, it's grain finished so we can fatten it up quicker and then we slaughter it. It's the same thing. We are cash cows. We are, as we pay for health insurance, if I got to have cancer treatments, who gets the money? The insurance has to pay for it, but the hospitals get that money. The pharmaceuticals companies get that money. I know a musician that had a brain tumor, and by the time he died, he was in debt to almost $1 million, and it still didn't save his life. All it did was prolong his misery. My father, who had lung cancer, same thing. Luckily, he had cancer insurance, so he paid the money up front versus on the backside. Had he not done that, my mom would have ended up broke. That's all by design, people. That's all by design. And so when you look at the problems, and don't think that these people are inept. Don't think that these people just know what they're doing. People don't come into power being complete idiots. Now, people can come into power, losing touch with their constituents. That's true. However, they're not idiots. They're only in it for themselves. And so these corporations, feed the FDA, and the FDA, tells you who lives or who dies. Think about that. Think about when the pandemic happened. What did Trump do? Trump said, hey, let's have a meeting with all the fast food places, and we'll make sure that they stay open. Meanwhile, the mom and pop restaurant, who didn't have a curb pickup plan that served healthy food, wasn't allowed to serve you. But McDonald's stayed open, Burger King stayed open. And then with the money that they poured into the people that couldn't work, you were basically living in perpetual Saturday. Now we were a country full of these kids eating their bowl of cereal, watching TV. Except this time it was the internet. This time you can still buy stuff. You can still go on Amazon. You can still go to Walmart.com. You can still buy stuff. Hell, you didn't even have to leave your house to buy groceries. Right? Neuromarketing, that's the thing. Look it up. And so all these things are in my head a lot while I'm doing my live feeds on the other channel. And I think, this is a good place to talk about that stuff, because not everybody wants to hear this. Not everybody wants to hear this message. Just like the drug or alcohol addict that you tell them, hey, you know what, you're screwing up, and they don't want to hear it. And I understand that. I have compassion for that. I'm not judging you for that because, look, it's a hard life. And there are things that have been ingrained into us since infants, since we were infants. How do you fight that? How do you fight that? How do you tell a dog that he can't be a dog anymore? How do you tell a cow that they can't be a cow anymore? All these things are linked. All the small issues that everybody argues about, it's all linked, right? And so with them focusing on fast food and perpetual spending, extension of credit, everybody made out like bandits. The rich became richer, the poor became poor, and now if you want a healthy meal, it costs you out the yin-yang. Have you seen the price of steaks lately? Have you seen the price of hamburger meat lately? And then you got this whole vegan agenda that wants you to eat, this plant-based food, except the only vegan food that you can have that's truly natural for you is vegetables, fruit and vegetables. Not this processed tofu crap, not this processed fake meat, the Beyond Burger and all that kind of BS. That is literally the same food that we give our animals, right? Oh, let's talk about that. So in Mother Nature, have you ever seen an overweight lion? Have you ever seen an overweight any predator animal? There's some truth to the carnivore diet, right? Mother Nature, and Butter Bob, he talked about this. He talked about a study where they took, dogs and cats, and the ones that lived in the natural that weren't fed by humans at all were fine, had the best health, whereas the ones that were fed by humans, and it was that processed food, they all have issues, right? They became overweight. Nature knows how to self-regulate, and we've literally destroyed that with everything that's going on. You can call it corporate greed, you can call it a government intervention on a way to control us. I call it both. There is a lot of this, a lot of parts to this machine, and I've only scratched the surface of it. Just some thoughts to ponder as you sit on the porch or in your truck or at home, drinking your coffee or water or tea, whatever it is that you drink. And just know that everything's against you. And, you can say, well, if you're going to die, you might as well die happy. Well, are you truly happy? Are you truly happy being in pain, being in misery, being in anxiety, watching everybody kind of lose their shit? There's some truth to that. Something to ponder. If you don't mind, hit the thumbs up. Tell me in the comments what you think of everything I said. Do you think I'm full of it? Do you think I don't know what I'm talking about? Or is there some truth in your personal experiences? I want to hear from you. Let's get this channel up. That being said, thanks for watching, and strength for today, hope for tomorrow. Peace.